Hello, Eagle fans. Chris Hooks of the NCCU Sports Network as we get you ready for the 2012-2013 basketball season. I'm here today with the head coach of the Eagles, Levelle Moton, as we discuss his squad here in his fourth season here at NCCU. Coach, thanks for joining us here today. And if you could, just talk about last season, wrap up, some final thoughts from last year and how you can build from that to this year going into your second season here in the MEAC.
It was a successful year last year. We wrapped it up with our second consecutive non-losing season, first winning season in North Carolina Central University history as far as D1. So it was something positive to build on. That was the transition that we really wanted our program at this stage in time. It was a heartbreaking loss, to say the least. One I still haven't gotten over, and Eagle fans haven't either, but we got to move on and let that fuel us for motivation for this upcoming year.
I think a lot of people, and I think a lot of people have seen what you've done in this program in your first 3 years, but I think maybe we've underestimated what you've done to this program here in the first 3 years. I mean, you've taken a program that had won 8 games the 2 previous years before you took over, and you've certainly had success. You went 15-15 2 years ago, 17-15 last year. You're getting in the recruits and the players. You're becoming, in your first year, you were in the top 5 of the MEAC. Again, you certainly deserve some a tip of the cap or some kind of medals because of what you've done. But again, you're the type that's not going to rest on that. And how can this program continue to get better?
I can't take credit for that. I have an outstanding staff, and the change of the guard was just getting young men in here that was more than capable of taking us to the next level. So, when you have better kids, people tend to think you're a better coach. So, it's the same plays I was drawing on the playboard before, but they've been able to go out there and execute it, and they've been quality individuals. So this year, the buck doesn't stop. We're not stopping short of anything but a championship. That's our goal, that's our destiny, and anything short of that, in our eyes, is pretty much an unsuccessful season. So, the kids are working hard right now. They're grinding, getting through the dog days, and just trying to prepare themselves both mentally and physically to prepare for a strong and tough upcoming schedule that we have this year.
Yeah, you certainly do have some student athletes that get out there and work. Whenever they have the goals up in McDougal, there's not a day goes by that there's not at least one basketball player out there. And you talk about some of the players you have returning. Ray Willis was second team All-MEAC last year. Ibuka Anyora had his moments last year where he was as good as they come. He kind of struggled down the stretch, but still had a pretty good season. Jeremy Ingram, we could keep going. Those guys returning, you got a good core coming back here in 2012.
Right. We do. The challenge is going to be to see how tough we are. We're losing a guy in Dominique Sutton that, who was extremely tough, extremely athletic, extremely gifted, and he was pretty much the heart and soul of our program. Well, now he's no longer here. So I told our guys the challenge for them is going to be to see how tough they are. The analogy I used was if we all walked into a club with Mike Tyson, we all would feel a little tougher simply because we were him. Now, if we walk into that same club without him, how tough are we going to feel? And that's the challenge. We have to feel that toughness consistently. And, it's the challenge that's going to lie ahead, that you got to wait till they throw up that ball in November at Wichita to see what the outcome is going to be.
You talk about your schedule this year. Again, you look at where we're going, who we're playing. Wyoming's. Again, you're playing a tournament, 3 games in 3 days. Just get ready for the conference tournament. You get to go out to Utah. The kids are certainly going to get a chance to see a lot of the country here this year. Just talk about the 2012-2013 schedule.
Well, you hit the nail on the head with the tournament. I try to schedule a exempt tournament every year just so we can become affiliated and accustomed to, that week in March where we're playing back to back to back, and we have to move forward and get over the previous game in the following day. So I try to do that. Also, you mentioned Wichita State. I wanted to schedule one of the toughest Midwest teams, and they sell out every game. They have one of the top home crowds in America. Quality program. They're going to win 20 games. They got a great group of guys coming in, extremely well coached. So I just wanted to test us extremely early and go out there and see where we stood. We go to Marquette, we go to Drake, we go to Wyoming. And those trips, I wanted to do Midwestern trips this year because it kind of forces you to be mentally tough. You know, you have the long plane ride, you have the long layover, and I didn't want these young men to feel sorry for themselves. I wanted them to get over all of the distractions and the minor intangibles and just focus on the task at hand. So hopefully those games will help us prepare for that.
Chris Hooks here of the NCCU Sports Network with the head coach of the Eagles, Levelle Moton, who's in his 4th season, coming off a 17-15 record in 2011 and 2012. All right, Coach, we talked about some of the players returning. There's some newcomers that a lot of people don't know that much about. Jay Copeland had to sit out last year after transferring from Ball State. Talk about him and what he brings to the program.
You know, he brings a strong physical presence. You know, his nickname says everything about him. We call him the Honey Badger. I don't know if you've ever seen a honey badger, but if you can YouTube that and see that animal go to work, it's like one of the most astonishing things you'll see in your life. So he brings us a post presence, something that we generally haven't had since my regime here at North Carolina Central. So he gives us a guy that's, you know, going to defend, that's going to present some matchup problems for opposing teams, and he can score the basketball down low. So it's always easy to not have to depend on a jump shot as much and be able to drop the ball into the post and let them work inside out.
Looking at the summer league, and again, that has its place when,
Right.
when you see kids playing at competition against the Dukes, the Carolinas and stuff. From what I heard, most of the summer was a name, and one of the guys you have coming in this year, Stanton Kidd.
Mm-hmm.
He was someone that people talked about quite often, and he's another long, lengthy kid that certainly is going to get a look for you.
Well, when I think of Stanton, I think of a winner. You know, he's a kid that come from the inner city of Baltimore, so he had to win every day of his life just to survive, you know, yet alone graduate high school. He also went to one of the top, well, the top junior college in the nation last year. I think they were 39-0 in South Plains, and they were loaded. And he was a guy that, you know, subscribers and editors thought that NCCU shouldn't get. You know, he was being recruited by Wichita State and Houston and those schools, but we got in early and built a great relationship with him, and his mother and father were extremely supportive and allowed him to come here to North Carolina Central. So he showed some signs of brilliance in early workouts and early practices. So, you know, he just has to become more comfortable with our system and things of that nature, and I think he'll be an outstanding player.
But you talk about the point guard position, you've got two good ones. One to transfer in Jameer Ferguson, Poobie Chapman, Emmanuel Chapman, the other who quietly had a really good year last year, finishing in the top 5, led the league in assists for most of the season. Just talk about that position for you and how you've got some solid point guards this year.
You know, you mentioned Poobie. He's a floor general at his best. He had a very productive year for us last year. He's a young man that his strongest ability is his ability to pass the basketball, but one of the intangibles that he brings, everyone loves to play with him because they know they can run the floor and their eyes are wide and their hands are wide open, you know, hoping that they're going to receive a pass from him. He's a great teammate, to say the least. In Jameer, you know, we have another guy who's a winner. He come from Monroe Community College, and they made it to the Final Four of Hutch, which is the junior college Final Four version of the NCAA. And his team was pretty much loaded as well. So he's a winner as well, and he's used to playing with great people, and just a beautiful kid. And hopefully his quickness and cat-like ability can help penetrate and get easier shots for everyone else.
Eagle fans, just to tell you how good of a season Poobie Chapman had last year, he had the most assists by any point guard here at North Carolina Central since 1980. All right, Coach, you talk about, so we've talked about some of the newcomers and some of the guys that have been big for you this year. Is there anyone that you think that could certainly surprise a lot of people? I know that, you know, we haven't talked about Antonin Galea,
Right.
and him and what he brings to the table. Talk about him, and is there anyone else that we haven't mentioned that you feel like that's going to step up for us this year?
Well, Antonin is pretty much known for his ability to shoot the basketball, and you know, I followed that kid ever since he was in prep school in North Carolina, and at the time NC State was heavily recruiting him, and I think it actually came down between him and Scott Wood, and he ended up going JUCO, and we just kind of kept tabs on him, and a lot of people just forgot about him, and he just kind of fell under the radar, but he's 6'4", 6'5", and he's a workaholic, and he'll tell you, you know, at the blink of an eye that he's here on a business trip. So he's always in the gym, always shooting. always running around the track. You know, sometimes his work ethic is so phenomenal that I got to tell him to chill out a little bit. You know, it's a long season out here, man. So he's a super kid, super individual. So he'll basically bring an element of shooting the basketball, which is a premium that, you know, you can't highlight enough on this level. But I think the guy that everyone has to watch out for that no one is really talking about is Alphonso Houston. I love him. He's a Cleveland kid, so he's an inner city kid with a legit toughness to him. And beautiful kid, but he has the ability to bounce the basketball and get wherever he wants on the floor and score the basketball and also generate opportunities for others. So he's really tough and naturally strong kid who's going to help us on both ends of the floor. So I'm excited, but you know, once again, you got to wait till those lights come on and that popcorn start popping to see who's going to really do what.
So the main thing for you, I guess, coming into the season, obviously, is chemistry and getting the guys to work together as a cohesive unit.
In the toughness. Like, I'm just really interested in seeing our toughness because championship games are won. And during tournament time, you know, you're not going to out-scheme anyone. Your opponent knows what you're doing. They're calling out your plays the moment you call them out and vice versa. So it's just the intangibles. It's going to be those little things that you do that really equates to the large things that's going to determine the outcome of the basketball game. And in large times, it's the 50-50 balls, the loose balls, the rebounds, the extra pass, the willingness to set a screen and have flesh-on-flesh contact with this young man. That's the toughness that we speak of.
Looking back at last year and how it ended, and as heartbreaking as it is, what did you learn about yourself as far as a coach and dealing with that situation? And here's what I'm going to, I hate to remind you this, like the thing was like 2 or 3 minutes to go, we took the lead at 59-58, and it stayed that way almost the last few minutes. And that just shows you, like you said, out scheme and all that situation. The last 3 minutes, it was pretty much an ugly ball game the last 3 minutes. What did you learn about yourself in coaching wise as far as, you know, that game and moving forward in your career?
Number one, I learned I'm still a sore loser. I hate losing. I hate losing more than I enjoy winning. I'm the worst loser in the world. But you know, we learned a lot, and I just looked at that video because I really didn't have the heart to go back and look at it. I just looked at that video recently, and in the last 21 seconds of the game, we made 6 mistakes, mental, that the general public wouldn't know, but I know from a coach's standpoint. So, you know, we have to be more disciplined. We have to handle adversity and respond to adversity much better. I think when that call occurred, it took the life. I mean, people in the gym just went crazy, including our team. It was like, can you actually make this call? But things happen, yep. You know, and the reality was we were still up 1 with 16 or 17 seconds left. I forgot what it was. And if you would have gave us that scenario prior to the ball game, we would have taken it. So we had the game in our hands. We had the ability to determine the outcome. And, you know, hats off to Bethune. They hit a great shot, and we just didn't get it done. But, you know, a lot of things, adversity introduces a man to himself. That's one of our quotes on this wall. So we've been faced with adversity, and hopefully we can use that to motivate us throughout the year.
Well, Coach, we hopefully will have to be nearer in that situation again, because that means we're heading deep into the tournament, and that means March Madness, certainly something that we're a part of. We appreciate the time here today, Coach. Wish you the best in the 2012-2013 season. We'll talk to you as the season progresses.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
That's head coach Levelle Moton as the 2012-2013 season right around the corner. Follow us here on NCCUEaglePride.com. So long, everybody.